Another day, another highly scrutinized incident of fans storming the court in the NCAA. Over the weekend, Duke star Kyle Filipowski was injured when scores of Wake Forest fans stormed the court at Lawrence Joel Coliseum following the Demon Deacons' upset win over the Blue Devils. This is hardly the first time that a player's been injured in a court storm. Hell, it isn't even the first time this year. Just last month, Caitlin Clark, the biggest star in college sports, got leveled in a court storming incident. These recent episodes have increased criticism over the tradition of court storming, and Filipowski, who had to be helped off the court, plainly tweeted after the incident, "This gotta change." So when is this court storming gonna stop? Well, it's hard to say. We'll explain why. Sit back, relax, and take this in. The practice of court storming in the NCAA, that is, throngs of hometown fans rushing the court after a big win, is a tradition that can be traced back more than half a century. It's got a long and rich history, and yes, most of the time, nobody gets hurt. Back in the day, though, storming the court was reserved for the rarest of occasions. These days, thanks in no small part to social media, the practice has become much more common. According to an ESPN review, over the last 3 months, college basketball has averaged 3 court storms per week. Earlier this month, there were 3 instances of court storming in a 3-hour span. And the fact of the matter is, when you've essentially got massive stampedes happening with that kind of frequency, the probability of an injury occurring goes way up. And increasingly, people are getting hurt. Luckily, Clark, the reigning National Player of the Year and presumptive #1 pick in the upcoming WNBA draft, only had the wind knocked out of her when she got flattened in a January court storming. But Filipowski, the leading scorer on a Duke team with national championship ambitions, wasn't able to walk off the court under his own power after a fan ran into him and injured his knee at Wake Forest. Not good. And those are just the most recent, most high-profile injuries. Back in 2015, a veteran basketball writer suffered a compound leg fracture when he got caught in the middle of a court storm at Iowa State. And tragically, in 2004, a court storming following an Arizona high school basketball game left a teenager partially paralyzed. Of course, that particularly devastating incident didn't happen on the NCAA's watch, but it still illustrated the potentially grave danger of storming the court, a tradition that's clearly alive and well in the college basketball world. That said, certain conferences throughout the NCAA have taken measures to deter storming the court. The Southeastern Conference, for instance, has a series of escalating fines for schools whose fan bases storm the court, with first-time offenders receiving an $100,000 fine and third-time offenders getting slapped with a $500,000 fine. That money is paid out to the school that gets stormed on, so to speak. However, the D1 conferences with specific policies regarding court storming are very much in the minority. And the truth is, those fines haven't proven an effective deterrent anyway. In fact, just days ago, LSU fans stormed the court following a buzzer-beater victory over Kentucky. Among those jubilant LSU fans, Tigers women's basketball star Angel Reese, who actually got knocked down in the process but regrets nothing. Now, if you're wondering where the NCAA stands on all this, the league essentially said in a recent statement to ESPN that deterring and/or managing court storming during the regular season is a conference responsibility. Additionally, the NCAA has no manual or best practices document regarding court storming. Clearly, it's not a capital P problem in their eyes. And that laissez-faire approach would seem to be reflective of how ambivalent the NCAA and many of its constituents are on the issue. Even some players are into it. Reese is a prime example. Ultimately, these recent incidents and the heightened scrutiny notwithstanding, it doesn't look like this age-old tradition is going anywhere anytime soon. But the thing is, even if the NCAA and the conferences and the schools wanted to put an end to court storming for good, could they? Even the most well-manned security team is going to be significantly outnumbered. Would the NCAA really want to start arresting people en masse for storming the court? That's not great for the vibe or for the brand. Would they potentially vacate wins as punishment for court storming? Now you're messing with the integrity of the game. But on the flip side, isn't player safety paramount? How would the NCAA feel if someone like Clark got seriously injured in a court storm? These are the questions that the NCAA is wrestling with. And in the meantime, let's just hope that this tradition doesn't claim any more casualties. What say you though? Are you a fan of court storming? Or is it time for this dangerous tradition to end? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. As always, we appreciate you. We'll see you next time. The practice of court storming in the NCAA, shouldn't have had lunch first.